Class A sludge. It's pelletized. See, the problem, what's happening now is landfills are starting, they call it sludge. And because they're taking in too much percentage of wet sludge, even though it's 42% wet, when that slides off the landfills, there are issues. And so what's going on in the marketplace currently is, and we've been fighting this for 2 years now, or trying to work through the process, is what is it going to take to get our sludge into the landfill so we can use it. Well, Class B, we're currently landfilling, so we're using farm, back to kids or whatever. So I've been working on this going on for years, and we can dewater everything we have. I can't mix still branch and still branch out. It doesn't work like that. The deal we have working for them. What we want to do is looking at is turning in 6-year-old creek into a central processing center and only buying one centrifuge and dry the stuff, pelletize, and then either take it to a landfill, which they can't take because all 90% of the moisture is gone, or you can sell it. Clayton County got into the business and they first started selling it, and it went okay for 5, 6, 7 months. Next thing you know, they're giving it away, and now they're taking their Class A sludge and sticking it in a landfill because nobody wants it. Because there's freaking fertilizer out there. I mean, when you consider 7.9 billion gallons of sludge being watered a year at wastewater treatment facilities, and you're pissing on people that manufacture fertilizer, okay? It's fit quid pro quo because the fuel drives fertilizer. So when fuel's up, the price of fertilizer goes up. The price of fertilizer is out there for the you would have thought. And if we can get in the wastewater markets with our stuff, it would equalize or at least drive down the cost. I was going to do the last time I did my yard for Aikens was going to end up charging, and I was going to spread it. It was 10, 10, 10, and then I looked at 13, 13, 13. A ton was over $700 a ton. And I was going to I got a long time for $100 in my yard now because I can't afford to buy that type of agricultural fertilizer. So to answer your question is, we've been working at Georgia Water, professional water, GAWT, and I'm on that committee. And we're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a couple suppliers out there. Well, not manufacturers, but reps. And we're looking at the concept of having regional drying systems where we can buy into a portion of it. Okay, so if we live long range and we need 6 MGD, whatever, we would buy into that facility at that percentage, that price point. And in return, we have a guaranteed cost savings of how much it would cost us to get rid of sludge. I came up with that last year, Dan Carter, Ecotech, they're looking at trying to push regional dryers in associated with landfills. Okay, so then you can either one turn it into fertilizer, or two, it can go into the landfill between 95 and 99% dry, and then we don't have to. We've been able to curtail that through the Department of Agriculture. There was 4 of us that met with the Department of Agriculture, and they redid their language in their biosolids bill, and said the commissioner of EPD would detail his information in harmony, I guess, with the Department of Agriculture. Right now it's at that. And nobody's filed any agreements. I look, how does that affect me right 15, I'm quite sure there'll be some previous files. And then got the ones that carried over from last year because it wasn't a drop. It's just a matter of time we have some options. And one of our options is take all our alum sludge down to still branch, get rid of the back side of the property, and get 27 acres, and we'll just till it in like we do. Alum goes into our farm up the way with buffers from the river that we deal with. They're the biggest problem. Our biological sludge. Believe it or not, they're taking Citro's taking because we've got screw press and it's coming out so dry. They're actually hauling our sludge. Bringing it out. Alabama takes it. And so what they're doing in Alabama, they got these big fluff machines, spreaders, spreading it out. But we're trying to fight it off because the fix is just about the same cost of fixing the next one. It's $2.8 million We do land application in Shoal Creek Basin where we treat the moving water in Shoal Creek, then we force main it to the land application site. It sits in the holding pond and schedule the fields to be wet. The rest of our sludge, the alum sludge, has Harry Simmons is being applied. Farmers love it. You know, we have to get some fertilizer out once a year, but they get 4 or 5 cuts on your crop. Contamination Creek is land applied, and we have centigrade management on our farms for that, and that's class B sludge. You got a quarter on there, you cross section your fields, and no, it goes to, we have farms all over the area, and so they land apply. The farmers like it's got nutrient value, but the issue that's coming into play now with sludge doesn't matter whether it's alum sludge or whether it's biological sludge, as they call it, PFAS, don't matter what it is. It's all the plastics that don't break down Teflon from all these cooking pots. You know, and I use a lot of Teflon. I have some Teflon, whatever coating is breaking down with the plastic, believe it or not. And so what's happening now is they're starting to find out that there's a residual being built up on these places that are dropping sludge on. They don't have a metric or an MCO for it. Yep. And it's coming up. Well, I mean, and then it's also the bottles. All these plastic bottles and everything that are making it through the system. And then there's a whole host of like 137 things that can happen. They're starting to figure out that we're probably got to figure out a way to process it's in its infancy, but it's gaining track real quick because a lot of people get actually pissed off about it. Like in Michigan and in Maine, you can't drop sludge on the field anymore. And you can't take sludge, a Class B sludge, to the landfill when they kill someone. You've got it today. So, you know, in California, they're just using us to know what to do. But at the end of the day, yeah, this train's moving pretty good. It's going to cost us some deal. I've been dealing with it behind the scenes for the last year and a half, 2 years, knowing this was coming. It's just that every time Kenny walks into his office, Cabinet is going, we'll do the same thing Cabinet will do, is we'll either do it ourselves or we'll pay Senator to haul it to Stone Creek. We'll process it in the centrifuge, turn it into plastic sludge. Probably what we did is we'll just... that's the Cabinet's going to Alabama. And then potato goes to our farms, and then Harry Simmons goes to the farm, Still Branch goes to Springfield out there. Well, what started all this crap is that when I took and made Still Branch the lead plant because of the large volume of water down there for years, I mean, 8 or 9 years, they were doing 2 million, 2.5 million a day, and we let Simmons make the lead plant. Well, when we flipped that over, you got more sludge, you got more fly, you got more alum, you got to get all the shit out of the water. And the spray field started getting black scum on it. It was getting built up. So I said, we probably didn't even have to expand the spray field or do something. So Paragon right now is designing, and we pilot tested screw presses and belt presses. And we had 4 pilot studies to see which piece of equipment would work best on the sludge that's coming out of there. We found the equipment that is going to make that work. They're designing the facility. That facility, I had a time in the budget. I'm going to need $750,000 1 year, and then as we work that contract, phase 1, phase 2, not stop the contractor and do a phase 2 in the next budget year in order to, it's like $1.5 million to do store. And so what we'll do is all wheels turning. Every time we turn around, the biggest blow, we were dealing with sludge just on the whiteboard in my office. You're saying that right there, all the pieces are there. Is when this thing happened with the Green Reservoir, land acquisition purchase, and I'm sitting here, having a deal. Okay, so you're talking to me. I don't know why there on the so Dick came in yesterday, Paul came in yesterday. Wow. What are you drinking? In my opinion, church, and I'm just going to leave that front of there. That's the main questions about. Yeah, we got to put this on your roads. It looks fine. Yeah, just come out. We figure out how we can work together. Take that thing's got to first. Oh, I got to say, I don't think I'll take some of that side. Look up. Your property is another issue where land acquisition. This town or this county. What's going on with you? Not too good with that. We're not going to get the sales that we need. If federal land acquisition is what I call long-range planning. And the way you manage it, Christmas, you make this not what needs to be done. We need to look at those. We need to, they're not going to master take that forward. Get water and sewer that. The county needs the county needs to build it that way. They need to build a waste management road to build the do I need to see what I need to study for? Okay,
we need to motion come back to open session. Yeah, I make a motion to return to open session. Second. Motion by Commissioner Flowers. Second by Commissioner Tinsdale. All in favor, motion 7-0. Now we'll start with our annual review for the electric environmental compliance cost recovery and power cost adjustments. Director Kevin Brownlee will address.
Good morning. This should be fairly brief. As you know, the electric cost compliance recovery is a billing mechanism that applies to all the rates on the system except for contract rates. And for the year, the ECCR is going down 5 mils and the PCA is going up 5 mils from 187 to 192, and the ECCR is going from 0.006 to 0.0555. And but the net result is no net change in the billing or the revenue or cost. Any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Good news. Good.
Anybody got any questions? No. Okay, you're done. Thank you. Okay. Next discussion of proposed state opportunity zone for Experiment Street corridor.
Thank you, Commissioners. The State Opportunity Zone, we've had these in the past. We had one in the downtown area. This is an incentive program to encourage economic development in the areas that it's located. As new businesses are located there, they are able to get a $3,500 income tax credit on the state level for a minimum of 2 jobs. Areas that have underdevelopment, undergrowth, little higher amounts of crime, higher unemployment rates are eligible for those particular areas. If you look on your maps there, we're looking at the northwestern section of downtown Griffin and Experiment Street all the way up to Ellis Road up there. We had DCA come and ride around with us in that particular area, and they said that it is eligible. That particular area is eligible for a state opportunity zone. So have put together the information. Thanks along to the rest of staff, especially Planning and Development Office and GIS, for helping to put all the data together. But this is just a great incentive to encourage some economic development in that area.
Does this include the what we used to call the tiers building?
It does not.
Is it currently in the Opportunity Zone?
It's currently not in the Opportunity Zone. There was an Opportunity Zone that was in the downtown area, and that expired last year.
And then the old mill site across the tracks on Broadway and the old, between Hill Street and 8th Street, does that include those buildings on the...
What mill site?
Well, there's a mill there on the corner of 8th and Broadway.
The Happy Vale?
But you got that undeveloped, you got the commercial on that side of the tracks.
I don't believe it does. As of right now, the areas that it encompasses is the block that's North Hill Street, Slayton, 8th Street, Broad. And also, we wanted to pick up 118 8th Street as well, which is where I think there's the Wings location is. It also goes down Broad Street. There is a church down in that particular area. There's Saki is located right there. Harris Jones furniture storage location is there, and it continues out. That's the only section that's part of the downtown.
I see on this map, it looks like it's the between 8th, it goes to 8th Street. Didn't know whether we wanted to run that all the way down to Hill Street to get that vacant. You got that area?
I can make a note of that and see. Let me talk to DCA and make sure
You got that old mill there, then you got the vacant lot that I think David Dodd's organization has.
Racing.
We have the racing program.
Right now there's a concrete slab.
There's a big concrete slab there, but if we could go one more block to pick up that piece for a potential.
That'd be great.
So pick up the north side of Broadway up to Central. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir, but all the way to Hill Street. You got the 5 Points gas station. You've got those different businesses up to Central.
Okay.
That might.
So you're talking about going, what you're suggesting is going all the way to 9th Street?
Well, right now it's to 8th Street. Currently, the way the map I'm looking at includes.
Can we make the map smaller? Because I'm... Okay.
There's a couple other maps that are on there as well that don't have the pictures.
I see that the brown line is the district you're proposing, correct? Which includes.
Depends on which map. I've got a red line on one and a blue line on another one. If you're looking at the one that has all the pictures on it.
I mean, I'm looking at, you've got pictures of the old thrift store there, the building that Woody Heath owns now.
Yes, it's the...
You've got all that side of Broad Street across from the Welcome Center.
Yes.
North State Street.
Is there a maximum or minimum size area? So
No, it's all based on the application itself. It's just got to meet certain qualifications in terms of the unemployment rate, the amount of economic development that's been happening in the
If you
area.
went to Central Alley, when you come off of, if you take Central Alley, go to North Hill Street.
But pick it up where, at 10th Street?
Ninth, so the back side of those properties could be potentially redeveloped. You've got this.
Is that where like the Happy Vale is?
The mill.
The mill, Happy Vale Mill?
Yeah, the Happy Mill, but basically instead of using the back of the part, it looks like you've got the parcels hacked out instead of just going up to a street to find.
I'm gonna need y'all to just redraw a map and then give me that. This is too much.
Okay.
Yeah, this is too much.
Patrick, the area that just expired off of the Opportunity Zone area, that was over on Poplar, right? That particular area?
I believe so. It was a lot of the downtown was in the state opportunity zone.
And it expired because that's just the way it works? It couldn't be continued, or?
It's only for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And so we tried to renew it for another 10 more years. And since downtown has been seeing a lot more growth and vibrancy and activity, it no longer qualifies.
Got it. So it worked. I mean, it works for us. We can see.
And the more we advertise and the more we publicize the incentive on there, I mean, $3,500 income tax credit for a business is pretty good, especially if you have like 10 employees, having $35,000 per year
Picks up
income tax credit.
even if you are an existing business. It's not just for new? Or
I believe it's for new businesses that they create new jobs. It's not for existing. So if you had a business in that particular area and you added on a job or two, actually if you added on a minimum of 2 jobs, for each one of those jobs it's a $3,500 income tax credit.
Broad Street and Broadway.
Yeah, that area, that strip of buildings along Broadway from 9th Street all the way back to south to Hill Street, using Central as kind of a boundary, that would pick up those.
Okay, so the purpose of including, so we got the front side of Broadway. What are you saying? That doesn't include the buildings on the street?
As of right now, it stops at the railroad tracks.
It stops at the railroad
Yeah,
track.
it stops at the railroad track, but adding that section of buildings might create opportunity for reinvestment.
And that would be Broadway on the north side from Hill Street all the way down to
9th Street, 10th Street.
9th Street.
The area that you already have, does that meet all the criteria for the proposed opportunity zone? Does that meet the criteria?
The current area does, granted it is an application, and so they'll have to do the final approval in there, but based on the drive time that I'm driving around with the DCA folks, they believe that particular area does meet the qualifications.
Okay.
And it's okay if it overlaps?
What's this?
It's okay if it overlaps, such as historic district or entertainment?
Yes.
It's fine?
Yes.
Can you email us a different map of, because y'all going back and forth and too much and I'm not.
Sure. We'll have to then table this because then we'll have to we'll update all of the data information as well.
Okay.
Good idea.
Because as of right now, the data only represents the area that we currently have on there.
And if it passes, what is the lead time? Or once you get the application in, when does it begin?
I do not know how soon it would be taken into effect. It's however long it takes DCA to approve it. But once it's approved, it'll be in effect for 10 years.
10 years, okay, great.
Okay, yeah, just an update, that ain't.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, presentation and discussion of creating an Adopt a Street program.
While Chris is coming up, I just want to remind you that both the electric change, the Adopt a Street program Chris is about to talk about are on the agenda for tonight, and then what Patrick was talking about, I guess we'll need to table till we can update that, but that's on the agenda tonight, so we can table that and go with the other two.
Good morning.
Morning,
Good morning.
Chris.
Good morning.
Just bringing a little program here we're trying to put together. We had some requests from outside. A couple of businesses have spoken wanting to do something. Particularly Bandag has spoken about picking up that area, and it's a constant area for us that had to pick trash up, so that's going to help us tremendously. So we're trying to put this together, and hopefully we can have other volunteers to adopt some streets. The rules we've kind of set for this thing is basically you got to adopt a 1 mile stretch of street to make it beneficial, and you've got to pick up trash at least 12 times a year. Once a month is what we're looking at for your volunteer group.
Is it indefinite, or what's the time period that you adopt the street in your?
I think we're doing a 2-year periods, or No, we're doing 1-year periods with options of 2-year periods to
And it's businesses and
businesses, organizations, or individuals. I mean,
Okay.
you know, a family could adopt a street if they wanted to. It's just not, we're not going to stop anybody from doing that.
Okay, I have 2 questions. Can
Yes,
you
ma'am.
tell me the difference between a company approved logo and an insignia? Just from my own understanding.
I can tell you that we just wanted to have, to make sure whatever we were approving would be following Mr. Smith's good judgment.
Okay.
So we just put that in there.
Where it says that the waiting list, if it's a particular stretch.
The waiting list would be, in case somebody wanted to adopt a street that was already adopted. If they wanted to let it expire and they didn't pick it back up, then we'd put them in there.
Gotcha. Okay, that was the only questions I had.
Okay?
Great job.
Anything else?
If I have any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, discuss the current status of the City of Griffin Curbside Recycling Program and potential impacts associated with the recycling industry and market.
3 minutes, just kidding. Just kidding, 3 minutes, just kidding.
I can do it in 3 minutes. I can do it quickly. Okay, in your packet, I just want to kind of go over a couple of things that are very, very important right now that we've got. Well, it's not a couple of things, it's several things. All right, the current challenges that we're facing in our recycling program in the recycling market, it is not isolated to the city of Griffin. It's isolated. It is an industry-wide problem. If you've been keeping up with Channel 2 Action News, the city of Atlanta has just now had to increase the cost of their recycling to $75 a ton, okay, from $25. We've got cities all over the country and all over the state that are either reducing or eliminating their program. We'll go into that a little bit in just a few minutes. The current challenges that we face, well, the markets right now are at an all-time low and they don't show any signs of recovery. Period. The China and Asian markets no longer accept our material, and we'll get into that just in a few minutes. Many quote-unquote recyclable materials are no longer being accepted by processors due to there's no end-user demand. Recycling is a wonderful thing. It is recyclable, but where can we recycle it? So that's where we're kind of looking at. Contamination. Contamination is causing an ever-increasing amount of collected material to be rejected by the processors, and that was with material that's inside. They used to not be, you used to kind of get through with not having to rinse out and all that different things, but the regulations are really, really tightening up. Disposal and transportation costs for the rejected and unacceptable materials are driving the cost to process acceptable materials to an all-time high. Case in point, you got 5 tons of material here. Only 1 ton of it is actually acceptable. You've got 4 tons of material that you have to separate, reload, retransport, and then bury. So the cost effectiveness is done. Next one, okay, and there's a lot of things that have caused this. There's 4 kind of key items that have been identified. This is from Kenny sent this to me from his recent City Managers Association meeting. Okay, who buys a newspaper anymore? Okay, 2 out of 7. Most people get their news now on their app or their device or whatever colorful metaphor you call it. But so newspaper, there's just not a lot of it being made anymore. There's our 16 paper mills in Georgia are cutting way back. Some of them are cutting back to hardly nothing. In 2006, it took 4 water bottles to make what 8 is now. And that's a wonderful thing. That water bottle that Commissioner Murray has right now is 3 times thinner than it used to be. But that makes us feel good because we're using less plastic, but we're making more bottles.
That's catch-22.
Okay. And then the China sword, or the green wall, or it's a lot of things. China has cut down everything that they're taking in to less than 0.5% contamination. That's mixed paper, no plastics, and the commodity markets have totally crashed. Okay, next one, if you would. Mixed paper and post-consumer scrap plastic was officially banned as of January 1st, 2018. That's in China. Okay, the quality standards for the material that's coming in, such as OCC, which is old corrugated cardboard, their higher standards of that took effect in March. Recovered shipments to China dropped by 99.1% in 2018 compared to 17, indicating that the country's restrictions on importing post-consumer plastics have been highly impactful. So we have a wonderful plastic society, and we got nowhere to put it, because we can't give it away. We can't even give it away. They charge us. Chinese companies imported over 110 million pounds of around 110 million pounds of scrap plastic in 2018. But in 2017, they took in nearly 12.6 billion pounds, excuse me. Paper, same thing. Next one. Actually, China's national sword policy, this is kind of a timeline background. Thailand temporarily banned some plastics in June of 18. China releases draft rules that propose a complete ban on recyclable imports from other countries effective 2020, so they won't be taking anything else if this continues or if this stands. And then in August of 18, China imposed tariffs on recyclable imports. And then Taiwan also proposes import restrictions. Malaysia has stopped issuing import licenses in November. That's one piece of the puzzle. China and the Asian markets are done. We have no clout, no power with the Chinese or Asian markets whatsoever. Just because we want it don't mean we get it. The next piece is the recycling contamination. The average recycling contamination rate is 25%. That's nationwide in any single stream system. It's still kind of high. It is high. EPD estimates that 75% of our waste is recycled, but yet we're only close to about 34% of it recycling. How do you increase recycling when there's no market for it? So it's a tit for tat, okay? Heavily soiled paper, waxed paper, and shredded paper cannot be recycled curbside. People say, well, wait a minute, shredded paper? Shredded paper can't be recycled? Yes, it can. Most certainly it can, but it can't be recycled by us because our processor doesn't want it. Shred-X might want it. They have a market for it, different things like that specialize in things, but that shredded paper gums up millions of dollars worth of equipment. And despite the pricey recycling campaigns and new sorting technology, recycling levels haven't improved in the United States in over 20 years. And I can attest to that. I've been in this business close to 40. So, next one there. All right, our current contamination percentages that we're dealing with right now at our recycling center is as high as 48%. People are using their blue containers for garbage cans. That's it. The national average for single stream is 25%, just like we discussed earlier. But we're dealing with something as high as 48%. There goes back to rehandling, reloading, retransporting, all of that of this undesirable material, unacceptable material. We can no longer sustain the additional costs associated with source separation because that's what we're doing, of acceptable versus unacceptable material. And any potential revenues realized for the sale of materials offset by the cost of dealing with the exceptionally high contamination rates and all the other ancillaries that are associated with that. Next one. Even for us to get a 25% contamination rate, the three most important things that we can do is just know and throw only the items accepted for recycling. Empty and rinse plastic, glass, and metal containers before they go into your recycling cart. If you're in doubt, throw it out. Do not be a wishful recycler. That's what the industry calls it.
Empty and rinse, you got glass, but we're not taking glass.
No. That was an omission on my part. I apologize for that coming up.
Bill, I recall you saying something to a lady she was concerned about rinsing out her peanut butter jar. And you told her you don't have to worry about it.
That was before this hit the fan.
Okay.
Okay? Anything that I have said prior to today don't count, because the entire industry is on its ear right now.
Hey, Phil, so I was reading through this last night. Is this later on in the presentation, but how, when your guys are going from house to house and they dump a blue can, they don't have time to go through it and look and see if, what are we going to do?
We're going to have to physically open the container before it's dumped.
Wow. And then if it...
I don't have any choice.
If there are things that don't belong there, then they don't even get their household picked up.
They don't get nothing picked up. And if you'll see in the proposed changes to the wording in the ordinance, just for us to kind of talk about, there will be some citations issued on that as well. It's costing us a fortune.
Sure, I know.
And being stewards of taxpayer dollars and user fee dollars, we've got to draw the line.
Are we still required to recycle by law?
By law? No. By ordinance, we are, yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes, we're going into...
If we do away with recycling?
We'll go into that in just a second. And then you can... But yes, we are. We are required to recycle by our ordinance.
I'm not talking about ordinance. I'm talking about law.
When we adopted the statewide solid waste management plan, we had a goal in there that was mandated at that time
to reach 25%, but that has since been redacted. There is no state law that requires recycling.
So no, we don't have to.
Because of so much more material staying in the United States, there's a glut of recyclables today. I wish I could have attached some pictures to this to see some of the docks on the East Coast and West Coast that are just piled up with bales of plastics and stuff. And that translates into higher costs and lower revenues. Some cities, I'm going to say just, Ohio, there's a town in Ohio suspended recycling program for 2 years. Tacoma, Washington, one of the epicenters of progressive liberalism, is surveying their recycling customers and paying more to keep recycling services, or just simply shutting down. And Deerfield Beach and Sunrise in Florida ended their recycling programs. Next page. Some of the things that we can do that's attributing also to this is we got recycling confusion. As the markets change, we are years behind in ways that we can communicate with our people, with our constituents, with our citizens. The market change, the technology changes so much and so fast that what was recyclable last year is not recyclable this year. So that brings in confusion. And then I went to go into the wishful recyclers. That's what a term the industry uses. This garden hose is recyclable. Sure it is. Do I put it in our recycler? No.
How often, though, I just remember when I think I was young, just starting out with the city, when we implemented the program, but how often, I'm not used to things changing on that end. You just kind of think it's carved in stone. How often have these... They've been
changing yearly since 2007 that we got into it. But we've been absorbing the changes because it was logistically at the sorting end, not so much on the generation end, because we have inmate labor to help us. We didn't have to pay a lot of extra in retraining and different things like that. So if we didn't have the inmate labor, we wouldn't be here discussing this today. Like I said, wishful recyclers. Styrofoam's recyclable. Do we take it? No. The rocking horse that the grandbabies rocked on in the yard, that big thick plastic stuff, it's plastic, it's recyclable. Do we recycle it? No. But that means you wish it was recycling, but we can't. Contamination in the stream, like I said, with dirty recyclables. Our increased cost of $27.50 a ton to process to over $57 a ton. Okay.
And the landfill cost per ton now is $35?
37 and some change. We're going to increase another $1 and some change on that House Bill, what was that, 789 or whatever it was for the host fees for Butts County. Okay, processor changes. This is what, in my conversation with our processor, which is Sunoco, no glass. No number 3s through number 7 plastics. And the way to identify that is the little chasing arrows on the bottom of the bottom of any plastic container. When in doubt, throw it out. No plastic bags or film. We used to take plastic bags, take them to Walmart or Kroger or Ingles or Publix or whoever takes them. Take them there. No fast food containers of any type. No pizza boxes. We used to start taking them. We didn't, then we did, now we don't. That's how quick it is. No styrofoam. No garden hoses, electrical cords, Christmas lights, yard toys, all of that other stuff. All right, our next steps and staff's recommendation is reduced to a total of 5 materials: cardboard, mixed paper, aluminum cans, to include clean, dry foil cooking pans. That's still good. Number 1 and 2 plastics, which is identified as water bottles, soda bottles, and milk jugs. And in just a second, I'm going to show you another change as I even got this done. Clean and dry metal cans. We've got to reduce the contamination to our recycling stream. We can start charging a gate rate for the acceptance of any recyclables in lieu of a no charge, because when we got the grant to build that recycling center, one of the contingencies was there would be no charge. We didn't pay a penny for that place, so we got to have it.
Metal cans mean your can.
Your beans and baked beans and different things like that. That's the bottom bullet point there. It's going to have to be, legal's going to have to look at that and see if we can, because that was one of the contingencies of the Regional Recycling Hub grant.
You got to wash the can out and dry it.
Yep. I'm serious. This is where I'm at. This is what I get. As goofy as it sounds and as off the wall as it sounds, this is what I'm getting. And it's very difficult to put this forward in a straight face sometimes. Who's going to wash and dry a can? I don't know.
Give you a rack and sit it outside?
I have no clue.
Sunshine. I don't know. Run it through the dishwasher.
All right, as of the 1st, we're proposing, or at least, that timeline is subject to change at any time, maybe March, as far as an education process we've got to go through. Like I said before, glass, 3 through 7 plastics, plastic film, shopping bags, Powerfoam, Styrofoam, plastic lawn furniture, shredded paper. And I got a question here. Maybe you can help me out. And this is some of the things that we have to deal with. Is this recyclable?
No,
Sure it is.
not with
But
that.
we don't.
Yeah.
That's the key.
What'd you call that, curbside?
That's trash.
No, I mean, you said curbside recycling. Is that,
Curbside, picking, is this recyclable?
yeah.
Okay, it is.
Nope,
Sure it is.
not with us.
There you go.
Why not?
It's not a class 1 or 2.
No, it's perfectly fine. But when you've got $5 million worth of sorting equipment, when these wad up
Yeah.
and get between a bunch of sensors and a bunch of rollers, and then it burns out $10,000 worth of conveyor belt, that's the problem. Perfectly recyclable. It even says it right on it, look.
Yeah.
But
Aren't a lot of the grocery stores going away from that, going to paper now?
some are mandated to do. Some towns are mandating paper, but that's just like City of Atlanta Airport. They got all next year to get rid of single-use plastics, which is water bottles, straws, lids, and all that stuff.
But here in Griffin, we do take paper bags for recycling, right?
Yes.
So should we ask for paper?
Yes, I would suggest you do, but a lot of folks, I ask for paper, but that's just me. But this is recyclable, yes?
What is that?
Soapbox.
Oh, it's cardboard, right?
Yeah, it's cardboard.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that we will take it or not take it?
This
You gotta clean
recyclable?
that and dry it.
Just rinse it out, it'll
Rinse it
dry.
out, okay.
Yeah. This is recyclable in what we're talking about taking.
Okay.
You got to put the right side.
Sorry, you're so observant.
No, they were observant too. We were just wanting to get on.
What about this? You want to get on with it? Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Take the top
for
off.
right now. Oh, take the top off?
Take the top off.
God.
It's 2 different types of plastics.
So if you come to my house and you find this in my blue can, you're gonna give me a citation?
I'm not going to give you a citation for that at all.
I'd write it up.
Your people.
But I'm just saying that it'll still be taken because this ring is still on there. My fight with them has always been this little ring is the same thing as this. So they'll kind of back off, but at least take the tops off because what they do is they wind up not blowing up. Word on the street is they're talking about making you take labels off.
No. What is the feasibility of this?
That's what,
What is what? I'm sorry?
Feasibility of us convincing people to go through all this?
That's why I'm here talking to you.
Okay.
give us the
Okay.
kill it option. so
That's
we
why
know.
you're here talking to us, so that,
To show you what we're up against and what we're going to be facing, and the changes to the industry, and the changes to what we are going to have to look forward to doing at some point if we want to be in the recycling business.
Yeah. Well,
Is that recyclable?
yes.
Nope.
It's not?
It's a number 3.
I'm taking stuff back to the
How about this?
No.
No.
I said
It's a
no.
number 3 or 4.
I said no. It was brought to my attention. Some of the compositions being changed. This is a number 2 plastic now.
Oh, Lord, we live right.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Bottom.
Look on the bottom, got a little chasing arrow. You see the number in the middle. 1s and 2s is all we're talking about taking. Okay. With that said, I'll be brief. I realize that I'm trying to rush through some stuff, but we got to a point, we're at a place where we're going to have to make some decisions. Do we take these 5 materials and do the best that we possibly can with them as far as doing our environmental stewardship and try to do the right things for some diversion, or do we cut it, or what do we do? I'm not making any recommendation there. I just said that the costs are astronomical as far as if we continue on the road we are. I've had trailer loads of recycled materials rejected by, 18 tons of material rejected. We can no longer do this.
We're going to have a difficult time just educating our public.
We are still educating our public
Right.
from 2007.
I mean,
It changes so quickly. I can't stress that. It's not anybody that didn't do what they were supposed to do or anything of that nature. It's the fact that the market changes and the industry changes so quickly that we can't keep up.
You know what I'm afraid of is this is going to discourage people from even recycling, period.
Oh, it will.
Indeed.
Everything's just going to go in the trash.
It will.
We've fill up landfills, so we've got to have more land.
Yep. And then we're going to have to increase my budget for disposal. Tough decision. There's a lot of towns that's made it. A lot of towns don't want to make it.
Did they quit cold turkey, or did they
Yes.
try?
No. Quit it cold turkey.
But the increased cost of landfill, you're going to save in terms of the cost of running 2 trucks.
Yes.
You're going to save the cost of having to figure out how to sort it, not sort it.
Exactly.
So is there a product, say just cardboard you take and
Cardboard and mixed paper.
mixed paper, do that
That's it.
only? And have,
But like I said, there is a market for these other 3 materials, albeit small. But, we can reduce it to 2, 3. Is it going to happen? I can't answer that.
And then it has to be unsoiled cardboard.
Exactly.
So
0.05% contamination. Now, you take 15 tons of cardboard, and you get a 0.05 contamination. That's crazy.
Does tape count as contamination?
I'm sorry?
Tape?
No.
Okay, so just like no food
Yeah.
contamination.
Can you recycle that box you got on?
Yes.
on it?
Yes.
Has it got something on it that tells you?
Yes.
It's recyclable.
It's paper.
And this goes
But
into
isn't that
effect
different grades
now?
of cardboard?
There is different grades of cardboard, but they all get bunched together. This is virgin cardboard. After it gets made, it'll be recycled cardboard, and it'll have the little emblem on its side. It's used from post-consumer materials.
Can we get this on our city website, this information?
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
So.
I'm just bringing it to you. I know this is a lengthy conversation, but this is something that we're going to catch a lot of pros or cons for. We've got people that moved here because of our aggressive environmental plan, but we don't have the power to change that because the outside sources are controlling that. I don't have anyway. I'm just giving it to you straight.
What does our Sunoco contract call for as far as when it can be broken and
November of 20, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go back and look, but that sticks into my mind of November
They
2.
put $1 million worth of equipment in our recycle center, so we've got to give them, they count on these acceptable items in order to pay for that equipment.
That's our skin in the game. They just didn't come and drop $1.3 million worth of equipment in there because they liked us. It was one of those things that we have to enter into where they have to get an X number of dollars off of the sale of recyclables that we generate before we can even reap any benefit. And as you know, we've reaped a lot of benefit, but we've also in the last few years been really, really, really behind the 8 ball.
Are we breaking even?
No.
Wow.
We've absorbed it as long as we can absorb it. That's the reason I'm here, is to give you something to discuss and to think about. We'll continue on just like we're doing at your pleasure, whatever you tell me to do. But I just wanted to give you where we're at. So if we have to come back at a later date and discuss this, that's fine. But
You'll get us the numbers to break the contract. Basically, we need is a business plan that says if we do away with the service altogether, what's our win-win side, the lose-lose, and where the balance is.
I can do that.
We need to have some type of, if we're going to once a week curbside pickup for regular trash and do no recycling, if we do just cardboard recycling somehow.
Understood. I'll get you the numbers and look forward to getting back to you and maybe discussing it further. Okay, thank you.
Glass is just...
No glass, period. None.
How about these, though? We still want to do these,
Sure.
just take the top off.
Yeah.
So,
Number 1's and number 2's plastics, which is...
and this is effective immediately on that, or is
This is a number
past due?
2. I forgot. I pushed the tea jugs back there. This is a number 2 plastic. Number 1 is what you
Okay.
have in your hand. This is a number 2. That blue is just now a number 2.
Coke bottle.
What is a Coke
bottle.
Like a 2-liter, what is that?
That's number 2. Number 1, excuse me. It's PET, so it's fine. All of your soda bottles, all of your milk jugs and all. But these are 2 different milk jugs.
Yeah, because there's some contamination in that one. You didn't wash your spit
This
in
one,
your mouth.
this is somebody's tobacco spit.
Yeah, that's tobacco.
Still got the tea in it.
No, I'm kidding. This wasn't clean. This was. They're both exactly the same.
Right.
Rinse them out.
So, in the meantime, until we make a decision, do you want to revise the ordinance based on, because we're pretty specific in the ordinance as to what is recyclable and what is not. So do you want to make changes now, or do you want to hit this head on at the first of the year and make a more detailed determination, or what you want to?
I feel comfortable with more detailed because we'll change it and then we'll say one rule in general and then we'll turn around the next month and say
So just limp along between now and the time we really go in.
Because that's what we've been doing. We've been absorbing it. That's
But with all due respect, I have to sit monthly with him, and he says, why are your numbers not where they need to be? So that's how critical it is that we need to, so we can limp along, and we have been, and I'll be more than happy to do so.
Is this going to call for a change on the little blue label on the
Yes,
cans?
absolutely.
Okay, so you'll put those on there when they come out to pick it up at 6 months?
I want it to be a priority.
Educate the public.
Yeah, we'll need to address it soon at the first of the year.
Yeah.
Because we're,
But I just know how I would feel.
Understood. I would too.
You send a flyer out saying do this today, and then in 3 or 4 weeks there's another flyer saying do something else, because I'm a wishful recycler, so I'm already like,
I understand.
right, so I'm already like, oh Lord, I gotta go home and look through what I have now. I just already feel like it's too much, and so I don't want us to confuse it.
It was the simplest thing in the world, and the best thing since sliced bread. Whenever the concept of the blue container came out years and years ago, it just it takes the thought out of it for folks, and it really got buy-in. But my very first experience with any recycling was probably 35 years ago when you did source recycling. You had 4 or 5 bins at the side of the curb, and you had your green glass, your blue glass, all that stuff was separated into separate bins. Contamination was virtually nothing. The return on the material was decent. It just cost more, to...
Well, you take your Coke bottles back too, remember?
Yeah, and there's a lot of states that have
Probably
that.
go ahead and start an education campaign on the no glass.
Yeah, no
Right,
glass, no
yeah.
Because I was putting glass in mine up until we started having this discussion. 'cause
No plastic
Even I
bags.
didn't know not to put glass in.
Right.
Well, and I didn't want to, holler wolf, just like Commissioner Flowers said, I didn't want to holler wolf and change again. If I said, oh, we can't take glass this week, and then next week we can't take this. So I'm in complete agreement. I mean, I think it's the right thing to do.
Realistically, if you don't take an all or nothing approach,
Right.
in other words, just quit cold turkey, you're still going to have a number of citizens who are going to try to separate and recycle, even though we won't take it any longer.
Indeed.
How are we going to deal with them from a code enforcement standpoint?
There won't be. It'll all have to go into the truck.
One pickup and that'll be.
That's all we can
And they
do.
get 2 trash cans.
Well, some
Well, you know, if it's in
people
a
don't need
can-
any trash cans.
They'll pick up
Just 'cause
they'll
it's
pick up the
no.
blue can, and you just won't get it back.
No, I'm just saying,
It
right
goes in the
now,
truck
they
and-
still get 2 trash cans until we do it.
Yeah, and I realize that,
Well,
but
most places are probably gonna need to. If you're
And
only
that's-
picking up once a week, you're gonna need 2 cans, or
Very
we're gonna
true.
go back to twice a week pickup.
we cannot,
So will we just be picking the blue can up and dumping it in the other?
Yeah.
The big truck? Okay, so you would still, essentially, the 2 cans are still there, but we're just gonna run one truck and,
I just don't have,
Maybe, depending on what you decide, that's a
Okay.
possibility.
I don't have any good news for the future. I wish I did. I've come to him on a couple of occasions, and he knows how important it is because we look at the numbers and we look and see
yeah.
where we're at, and we've absorbed it for our citizens as long as we can because we hung our hat on being the I mean, we got the we got recycling program of the year for the state of Georgia twice. I mean, that's something that I enter into lightly. I look at it from an environmental acumen, but also the financial piece is killing us, and my budget in the city cannot stand it anymore.
I think educating the public is huge.
Sure.
And just like asking for paper bags when you go to Kroger or Ingles, wherever, and that would help force the merchant's hand to quit using these little plastic bags and start using more paper, which is recyclable.
Agreed.
It'd be a win-win.
Right. Sorry to take up so much. I apologize, but it was something that needed to be talked about, and we'll just go from there. I'll get you the numbers on what we've done as far as our costs and tonnage and all, and see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
okay, next we're gonna discuss the proposed 800 megahertz intergovernmental agreement with Spalding County.
So on December the 4th, I received a proposal from Spalding County, an intergovernmental agreement proposal between Spalding County and the city of Griffin for 800 megahertz radio communications. As you know, we've talked about this several times. So the obligation is to take a look at this proposal. You have a copy of it before you, and you have several memos and emails, and we've had several discussions along these lines, so I'm not going to go all the way back through the history. I think it's pretty obvious what we've discussed to this point. I will just point out a couple of things in this proposal that if you'll draw your attention to paragraph number 2, says the county is the owner and operator of an 800 megahertz radio communications system. Keyword communications there. If you look at paragraph 3, the term of the agreement is, this agreement is to commence on the day of its execution by all parties retroactive to November the 1st, 2017. As you recall, the current contract expired October the 31st, 2017, as it was supposed to be renegotiated in the service delivery strategy, and that was the deadline, so that's when the current contract expired. We did pay inadvertently for the entire fiscal year of 2017-18, so we are paid through June the 30th of 2018, but they want to retroactive this back to November the 1st and continue this contract through June the 30th of 2023. At any time following June 30th, 2020, either party may give written notice of their intent to terminate with a one-year notice. Paragraph 4, cost allocation method. They have proposed to leave the reimbursement at $16 per user per month, which is what we previously paid. I would draw your attention to the last sentence in paragraph 4, which says this is the same methodology currently being used in the county's dispatch services contract with Wellstar Spalding Regional Hospital. I'm not sure why that sentence is in there, and if we send a proposal back to them, I would like to eliminate that sentence because there's no comparison to Wellstar Spalding Regional. That's a private entity. It's not a governmental entity. It has nothing to do with government relations. It has nothing to do with service delivery strategy. It has nothing to do with double taxation. So the only reason they put that sentence in there is to let us know that they use the same calculation with our radios as they do with the hospital, which is a moot point. Payment terms, paragraph 5, they're suggesting that we make payment to the county in the amount of $87,360. That is $16 per radio per month for their current inventory of our radios. That period would be July the 1st, 2018 through June the 30th, 2019. That would be back payment for this past year that we did not pay for because the contract had expired.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is that, have we done an inventory on our radios?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and who maintains those radios? Does the county maintain them if they become inoperable, or?
It depends. Sometimes we take them back to the county, and sometimes we pay to have them reprogrammed and paid for ourselves.
We're paying the county for the radios.
We're paying the county for the maintenance of what they call the system, which is towers, rent on the towers, employees that maintain the system, they call it, the electricity for the towers and the system, which they didn't send me an itemized statement of what all that is. So we would certainly want to see that.
Obviously, the radios are part of the system. So they should.
The radio, yes, the radios are included, the walkie-talkies, the mobiles. Chief, do y'all take them to Mike to have work done, yes or no? I just need yes or no. I don't.
It ain't a yes or no. Sometimes, if it's the equipment they can work on.
It depends, which is what I said a while ago. So,
have we seen
sometimes we take it to the radio shop. Sometimes we take it over there. Yes, sir.
Have we seen an annual financial P&L on the 911 center and whether they're breaking even with the proposed $16 per radio? Are they losing money? Are they subsidizing it through general fund money?
On the 911 system?
Well, in terms of the radio, the piece of the pie, in terms of, are they charging us $16? If they charge us $16 a radio and they charge Wellstar $16 a radio and they charge themselves $16 a radio, at the end of the day, is it a wash, or are they
for the 800 megahertz system, not
that we're paying,
not emergency communication? All I can look at is their budget online, which does not break it out to that extent. I feel comfortable that they would tell you that does not break even.
But are they charging to their indirect costs?
They charge indirect costs.
$16 per radio?
They do. They charge indirect costs to their departments for $16. I assume it's $16. Yes. Their budget line item shows revenue from the city for 800 megahertz. If you recall, they came up with this $16 per radio per month back at the onset of the original contract. And I think it was somewhat at that time an arbitrary number. But at that time, we agreed to it and went with it. As you know, My stance has always been that emergency communications includes the radios. You can't have emergency communications. This is an 800 megahertz radio. The police officers carry this on their belt. They have one in their car. That's how they communicate with 911. So without this, there is no emergency communication. So if you deduct emergency communications from the 800 radio system, I certainly agree with paying them $16 per radio per month for public works, for electric, for solid waste, all the other items that are not emergency communication. If that were the case, instead of $87,360, we would owe them roughly $31,680 for non-emergency.
And is that just for what, the back pay or for?
It's per year.
That's per year.
Okay, so under that calculation, what would we owe them since we didn't pay?
So the back pay would be $31,680 roughly, because it depends on whose inventory you go with, because our inventory and their inventory are not the same. So roughly $31,680. If you choose to back pay them for last year, even though we didn't have a contract, that would be $31,680. And then this fiscal year that we're in now would be $31,680.
But I thought we just did an inventory. But the inventories don't match?
No, sir. Their inventory is the original inventory from like 2000 and...
So some of those radios are probably obsolete or...
Yes.
I know you requested that they send you a good count. They didn't send.
They sent me, yes ma'am, they sent me their inventory, which
and it's the same as the.
Doesn't match our inventory.
Okay.
So, I don't know what proposal you want to send back to them.
Well, if it's their equipment, I don't think we should be responsible to maintain it.
What's the answer to the inventory question? Like, how does that even get rectified?
We're going to have to get their inventory and our inventory, and I mean, we're going to do a new inventory anyway if we go forward with this IGA. And we're just going to have to do a new inventory with serial numbers and eyes on every piece of equipment, and we're going to get rid of all of them that we can possibly do without. Because if you remember when we bought this system back in 2000, what was it, 5 or 6 or something? I mean, these were supposed to be the end-all, be-all to emergency communications. They were going to have phones in with them, and we were not going to pay for cell phones anymore. And once they determined the vendor was not the original vendor that we were going with, then all that kind of went by the wayside, and they ended up being these bricks that we've had since then.
Has the model not changed? That's not, I mean, that doesn't look like it's keeping up with technology.
Well, when we buy new radios now, when these are obsolete, we are buying Motorola's, which was what we wanted to do in the beginning, but
So without the contract and getting a better inventory, we obviously shouldn't pay for something we didn't use. I mean, if we had the inventory and we used it, and you're saying that would be about $31,000.
What I'm saying is, if we take emergency responders out of this contract with the belief that emergency responders radios are part of emergency communications, which are covered under the service delivery strategy as a countywide service, we would pay for electric, public works, solid waste, anybody other than emergency responders, then the payment would be roughly $31,680. Because
I'm looking for us to send them something back, saying that, looking for us to sign the thing they said?
Well, my assumption is they want us to sign this proposal.
What I would like, Madam Chairman, for us to consider, just I'm spitballing this out there, is that we consider a revised contract stating that we agree that we owe you $31,000 for last year and this year, and that we'll renegotiate the contracts with a service delivery strategy update on all areas, and bring this service delivery strategy to a head so that we can resolve. I mean, they come to us begging for a change of the the water master plan so they get their CBG grant last year. And they keep asking us for more and more, but they never bend on our end.
What is the timeline for having assessed the entire service delivery strategy? Or like how much more do we lack? Months and months and months?
2 years.
2 years.
It depends. I mean, we have been working on it along. Some of our meetings have been postponed. Ms. O'Connor and Ms. Irizarry met on Monday, and I would say that we are closer than we have ever been. However, there are going to be some fundamental differences that staff are not going to be able to work out, this being one of them.
Mm-hmm. So have y'all had any discussion on this?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Staff is not able to resolve this. No, ma'am.
Just send it back saying that this is what we feel like we can know.
And if it's worked out in the service delivery strategy that we agree upon going forward, if we work out in the service delivery strategy that this aspect is that we will be paying for what they consider our share, then we would go back and maybe pay them for 17 and for the 18, 19, and 19 and 20. But for now, until we come to the table and resolve service delivery strategy, we're offering you $31,000 with the possibility of us maybe paying the other 50 or whatever thousand.
I was on a possibility. We need to get a clear understanding about whether it's emergency service, and if they're responsible for emergency service, then we shouldn't have to be double paid.
Right.
That $50,000, I wouldn't bring that into the...
But I mean, we're going to pay this, and then we'll go to service delivery strategy discussions and work out all of our different issues and move forward. But from now, we offer them a counter of a contract stating that we'll pay for non-emergency for last year and this year. And when you're ready to sit down, service delivery strategy, we'll move forward. If y'all are agreeable, I'll make that as a motion.
And I'd also put in there, we do an inventory, compare the inventory with what the county has, and the county maintains the radios, period.
Well, yes, the inventory, but they'll say that they've done an inventory.
Well, we have to get together. We have to have, a representative from the city representative to compare the paper inventories. The radios have numbers, surely, and what they have, what we have. I mean, that's one way to hopefully resolve it.
Yeah.
How big is the discrepancy, Ken?
Probably about 30, 35 radios as of right now. Sir?
12.
$16
a month times 12 years. Adds up.
Okay, so what's the motion?
Well, I would like, and I know we don't have another meeting this year, but I would like for the city attorney to draw up a proposed response to this to bring back to you to make sure we're right. And that's under the assumption that they're not going to cut us off until we can get this resolved.
If I do that, then we file an injunction.
Sure. How much notice do we have to give before we're cut off? They can just cut us off today?
Contract.
Okay. So then we're going to have Drew make us the draft, and then you'll get it to us.
I would like for Drew to do a draft based on your comments today and us approve that draft at the first meeting in January.
That's fine.
And send it back to him.
Oh, we're going to be at that meeting all day. Okay.
Happy New Year.
That's fine. You did that research behind push.
911, we're going to make a board appointment. 911 communicator specialist is going to be Cora Flowers.
Yes, that'll be me. I have the most tenure on that board.
So,
Ever.
so you're going to be our special point person on that.
Yeah.
I think we're in agreement.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
That's it.
Finally.
Okay.
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Motion by Murray and second by
Holbert.
Holbert. Bye, y'all. I'll be back early. Take a picture this evening.
What time we gotta be back? Where's our photographer?
About 5:30. Who's gonna take the pictures? Brian?
Mark.
Mark's gonna be here.
Professional photographer, we understand that.
We'll be here.
Well, I already got mine because I came prepared.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, we did.
We adjourned. I guess I missed it.
We don't recycle that.
Griffin is recycled.
Yes, it's Feliz Navidad for you.
Feliz Navidad.